Hi, this is Albie Robles, voice actor, and I just got interviewed by Keith Andrew and had a great time.
Today on the KeithAndrewNetWork, we have upcoming CEO, podcast host, and voiceover actor, Albie Robles. That's right, you have Albie Robles here on the KeithAndrewNetWork. Make sure to like and subscribe to the KeithAndrewNetWork, and as I always say, catch you later. So if everyone wants to know what is the Keith Andrew Network about, whole point of my talk show is to show people that even with having a learning disability, I can still amount to something. And at the same time, I'm able to turn myself into an example for people out there dealing with any types of learning disabilities and disabilities to never give up and prove people wrong. Prove to them that labels do not dictate who you are and who you're going to be. To prove to them, you can still amount to something. So hashtag break the labels. With that being said, it's going to be a half hour every time, PG, PG-13. With that being said, normal conversation. So the first question I want to ask you is, tell our audience a little bit about your background and how you came to do what you do now.
Okay, well, I first, I used to do some acting back in high school. I did, I was one of those guys that was in every play that we did. And I continued to do that into college. And, we would make our own little short films in college and stuff. And once I moved out here to Dallas as an adult, I would work on projects for friends when, doing either grip work or some acting, because I worked at the movie studios at Las Colinas and I was a tour guide there. And so we would help on each other's projects. And I got married and I left the studio, and then the group of friends kind of drifted apart, and I stopped doing a lot of creative stuff, and I got pretty depressed from not having an outlet. I play music, so I wanted to either be in a band or go back to doing plays or start auditioning for movies. But especially once I had my two boys, I had no time to pursue any of these things. I couldn't be in the band because I couldn't put in the time to practice. I couldn't put in the time to audition for a lot of things and go off to movie shoots for days or weeks at a time. And when I was at my last job, I answered the phone and there was somebody calling from another one of our stores, and she said, "Oh my gosh, you should be doing voice work." And at that moment, it clicked that is something that I could do. And I realized that's something I had always wanted to do. And so I went in and listened to every podcast on it I could find. I joined every Facebook page I could find. I asked every question I could think of. I read other people's questions and the answers that they got. And I just went into a really heavy learning period for a good long while. And started to acquire gear, started to record just in the closet, just in the closet with a small, simple microphone into my phone. And I recorded my first job that way. And little by little, I started upgrading equipment. I started upgrading recording space. And eventually I finally got up to where I've built a studio in my home and all professional gear and doing professional work for movies and video games. And what I'm actually doing the most of that pays the most is a lot of corporate voiceover. When somebody gets a job and you see the instruction video on how to do the job, those training videos, I do a lot of that, particularly in Spanish.
No, absolutely. I do have one request because when we were talking, you were looking down.
Okay.
Is everybody can look up towards the camera because
absolutely. I'm used to doing the working only with my voice, and so I'm used to kind of focus on what I'm saying, and I tend to do that as a focus thing, looking down. So yeah, sorry about that. Thanks very much for reminding me.
No, absolutely. I interviewed a whole bunch of people when I first started. A lot of nice people, a lot of jackasses, but it's a hit and miss. Like, who are you? Who moved to rock? But
Yeah.
I interviewed a lot of voiceover people, and they're like, "Yeah, let's definitely do an interview. I can't wait to do an interview." Okay, time for an interview. It's a video audio. Well, I don't do audio because I like to see who I'm talking to. Oh, I don't do video. Okay, then why did you agree to do the interview then? But I talked to one person. I talked to Sarah Valentine.
Okay.
She did the voice of Mary Jane, and we
Mm.
did a great, actually, we didn't do an interview, but we had a great talk. And it's like, I would love to have you on camera. I don't do video interviews. Then I interviewed another voiceover. Oh, you want to do an interview? Terrific. No video. I'm like, you guys go to Comic Con and you take pictures with your fans, but you don't want to be a video interview. And I'm like, okay, whatever. I'd be more than happy to find someone else. Yeah, I'm gonna be disappointed because I wanted these guys on the show, but
Yeah.
I'm not gonna twist your arm or anything about having me on the show. But the next question I want to ask you is: have you worked with people with sorry,
Hmm.
hint of the show, disabilities? Have you worked with people with disabilities, and are you willing to work with people with learning disabilities?
I'm definitely willing. I have not, to my knowledge. It's very possible that I have without being aware of it. If it was something that didn't show on the outside very much. Um, I know that I have worked with people that I would later see them post something on Facebook or something or other that they suffer from very high levels of anxiety or depression that I wasn't aware of when I worked with them. So I know that not all disabilities are visible. I auditioned once for an audiobook, and I ended up not getting the job, but it was for by an author who was blind, and I thought that was really neat. But I think that's the closest I've come to knowingly working with somebody with a disability. Uh, I think it would be neat. I think it's my wife is she's a teacher for life class at her school, and so she has kids with different types of disability, and some of them are verbal, some of them not verbal, and so she sees through all of that, and she's really good at seeing the person that's there, and has helped me with that as well. Just it's amazing how easily people are dismissed, and anybody who doesn't have a disability or has not had a loved one with one, it's it's sad that in some cases they will disregard them as almost as not being people that are going to have as many feelings. They'll take something that maybe affects nerves or muscles, and they will assume that also that must think that they can't be smart, or that they're not fully aware of what's happening, and it's a very sad assumption. And I'd be lying if I said that when I was younger I didn't make a lot of the same assumptions growing up, because we're all affected by our environment. And of course, I've always been one to try to learn and better myself, and as those opportunities have come up to learn more about anyone, I've taken those in. We have had friends whose children had certain disabilities, and just really wonderful kids, and it's been nice to get to know them.
No, I agree with you. Especially you start with your environment. If you surround yourself around negative people or certain people I won't name, and you listen to their negative comments and feedback, you know, it kind of starts to weigh on you. They always tell you you are your own worst enemy. You're your own worst critic. But then you start listening to other people's comments like, I really don't give a like PG 13. I really don't give a shit what this person thinks. But self-constantly, you're thinking, you may hate this person, but at a tiny 10%, maybe 5%, you kind of it resonates with what you're doing. Like I give you an example. I love my brother. Sometimes he wants to punch me in the face, but the reason for that is I rub people the wrong way.
Hmm.
And I for anyone out there, I take credit for that. And sometimes I do things to get a rise out of people. Okay. And there's other times where I will just be myself. And a lot of people are like, if he's doing it on purpose, he's getting a reaction. What is his problem? So I'm not the easiest person to get along with. There are times where every day I'm like trying to fix myself. What can I do right? Stop with the negativity. I'm not saying, hey, pity me. I'm not asking you for, pity or anything. I'm not saying, there's times where I'm like being myself, and there's other times like, get this guy away from me. And anyway, that's not about me, but I use my family for an inspiration. Um, a lot of people would tell me I'm actually a big inspiration for people out there saying, hey, you're learning this. For an example, one guy always puts me over. Doesn't have to. I never ask him to. But when he's on the show, he always puts me over. That's amazing with a learning disability what you're doing. It's amazing you say you read and learn at a fifth grade level, high school level, but it's amazing what you're doing. And there's a part of me is like, thank you very much. But there's another part of me that's like, enough with the ass kissing. I want you to be honest. There's one guy who made a negative comment to me. He said, when I said it's like this, I came across him, right, online. I introduced myself. I told him what the show was about disabilities. Mm-hmm. And he's like, well, why you want me on the show? I don't have disabilities. By having you on the show, you're supporting my message and you're supporting me. Plus, you're making a new friend out of it. So he said, absolutely. I would love to be on your show. I think it's really great. You have 800, thanks to you, we're up to 830. He says he wants to be a guest. A day or so later, he's like, yeah, I came across your show and I saw a bunch of people who I interviewed. And I think after 800 episodes, you should have been, more successful. I think you should have been a master of what you're doing. I don't think you're really good. I don't think you're a really good talk show host. So I pretty much told that guy to piss off. Mm-hmm. But then that goes back to what we were saying, self-doubt. Is he right? What am I doing wrong? I even talked to my friend, Raven, and he said, you have a talk show, you have a learning disability, but you're showing people, look at what you're able to do. He said, did you miss the bus of that, or the boom or whatever the hell you want to call it about was the whole podcasting? Probably, but you have to remember this. Half of these people who have a big following became famous either if they were on TV, they were on radio, they had a following before they had a podcast. Just because you magically appear on the show and you say, hey, here I am, learning disability and all, that's not going to take with most people. People are like, is he using the learning disability as a gimmick, or does he really have a learning disability? Mm-hmm. But what do you think?
I think the most important thing is to do the show the way you do it. I think anyone that listens regularly is going to listen because they like you and they like your personality. Anyone who doesn't, isn't. And that's not even saying anything about the learning disability. People with a learning disability or without, there are thousands of podcasts and YouTube shows out there. And I know that with mine, a lot of people have listened to it and have continued listening to it. And I know a lot of people have listened to it and said, that's not for me. And some have said, it's probably think it's good, but it's not for me. And some probably thought, this is awful. I'm not going to listen to this again. Everybody has different tastes. They like different things. But what's for sure is I'm not going to necessarily change what I'm doing, and nor should you change what you're doing, because the people that are listening because they like it as it is. And anyone that doesn't like that, that's fine. That's what they like, that or what they don't like, and it's just not a show for them. There's not any show that's going to appeal to everybody. I'll go to see a movie that I love, and I'll hear people say that was the worst thing I've ever seen, and vice versa. I'll see something that I think is garbage, and I'll hear people say that was just incredible. So nothing is for everyone, and do it for you the way you like to do it, and those that are going to like that are going to enjoy it are going to come in to watch it.
No, absolutely. Now we're going to take a quick commercial break. When we come back, I'm going to ask you about social media, and then I will pass it over to you when we come back. Say when we're coming back from the commercial break is the following is brought to you by HB Gibson. HB Gibson, home of the X Zone. So get in the zone. Kind of like AutoZone, but not that type of zone. Everyone is, if you like eating, drinking, and being in shape, definitely check out Life of a Fighter. Tonight, it's everyone's favorite Tuesday night wrestling on the USA Network at 8 o'clock. West Coast, I think it's about 5 o'clock. Yeah, give or take, 3-hour difference. On the USA Network, it's NXT. Definitely check it out. And more importantly, make sure to like and subscribe to the Keith Andrew Network. We have a bunch of great formats, great challenges from the Human Pyramid Challenge, to the Dumbo Challenge, Dumbo Book Challenge. Hey, did I mention we have a bunch of challenges? There's a lot of great things on there. Make sure to like and subscribe. But with the last 10 minutes, before I pass the show over to you, one thing I want to talk to you about is social media. With everything that you accomplish in your life, from being a professional voiceover actor to creating your own company, have you received more opportunities from Facebook, Twitter, Instagram, or do you think that just because of your persona and your passion, that you can do it without social media? Passing it over to you.
I don't know that I could have gotten started without social media. As I said, one of the first things I did was to join every group I could find on Facebook regarding voiceover. And through there, I met a lot of people, and I'm able to promote anything I'm doing. I'm able to get projects out there that I'm working on. And I think that's kind of a more current way of doing word of mouth, and maybe more efficient. Just get that your stuff gets seen by more people. Um, the very first job I ever got was not one I got paid for, but the very first person that let me put my voice into something was because of social media. Being a fan of horror, I belong to a lot of groups, and there's a group that was a Stephen King group that I was in, that I am in, and someone there was making a Stephen King horror short movie, one of the ones that are called Dollar Babies. They let you buy the rights for $1, but it limits how the movie's going to be released. But he was making a short film called One for the Road, and so I just sent him a message out of the blue saying, "Hey, I'm getting into voice acting, and I was wondering if you could use a voice in your project." And he said, "Actually, I was thinking about putting in a voice on the radio saying that a snowstorm was coming. So this is actually perfect that you sent me this." And so I made a recording, and he sent me a script. I sent the recording, and that was it. That was the very first time my voice appeared in something. And with getting that comes the confidence to pursue other things more aggressively, and that's how things started for me. So definitely social media. Facebook has gotten me a lot of opportunities, and surprisingly, I've gotten a lot of work through Reddit. In fact, somebody posted on Reddit that they were looking for Spanish e-learning one time for a voice, and I sent them my demo in Spanish, and I didn't hear anything back, so I didn't get that job, clearly. But then I got an email from this person probably 8 months later, out of the blue, saying, "Hey, I've got this Spanish job if you're interested in it," and I was. And as that person started sending me jobs, all of a sudden they started sending me some much higher paying jobs, because their client ended up liking me and started asking for me each time something came up. And so the highest paying jobs that I've gotten has been through this person that randomly posted on Reddit. I think that that's a place where not a lot of voice actors are looking. Some are. It's a pretty it's a pretty busy community there, but uh, I don't know how many of the people that are on Facebook or Twitter realize that there are quite a few opportunities that come up that way.
No, I agree with you. I always say I have my top four, my top three. I'm on LinkedIn. Well, I'm pretty much anywhere. A lot of people think I'm like a bad case of hemorrhoids, or I just pop up everywhere. But I'm on Facebook, Twitter, Instagram, Pinterest, Snapchat. Doesn't mean I use all of them, but my
Mhm.
top four, where I got most of my guests from, it's LinkedIn, Facebook, and Instagram. Sometimes Twitter, but you just need to. You don't need so many platforms. Yes, it's great to say, okay, if someone asks you, are you here? Are you there? If you're so no one can make up a fake account for you.
Mhm.
Yes, but it depends on where you want to spend most of your time and energy. Like a good portion of my show, I was debating, should I do this in the beginning? Should I do it towards the end? I wanted to make categories in my talk show. Like, okay, actors, actresses, CEOs. I'm like, no, it's at this point, thanks to you, we're up to 830. It would
Nice.
take too long. But then I'm like, I'm curious how long it would actually take. I did it in a day or so. I have 16 independent wrestlers. I have about 23 talk show host people. Thanks to you, we're now make that 24. Um, there's actors, actresses, that's like half my show right there. I have WWE, I have TNA Wrestling, Impact, whatever you want to call it. I have AEW, still working on Ring of Honor, though. But it's when you go to my website, instead of everything being together, now you go under playlists like, okay, who am I in the mood to listen to? Okay, yes, Power Rangers, is Dragon Ball Z. Oh, wrestling, I like wrestlers. So it's now organized. Yes, it took me almost 8 years to get my head out of my ass, but it's about doing things. My Raven said to me, it's not about what you want, it's about what the viewers want. That's why I came up with the Human Pyramid Challenge, the Dumbo Challenge. I'm like, okay, if you don't want my talk show, if you don't like to hear me talk about disabilities, here we have challenges, we have wrestling, we have voiceovers, we have so much great things. And I have other people, like I mentioned, HB Gibson, the X Zone. And if you're interested, I would love to have you part of my network. So my network is growing, and it's about working together and saying, hey, that's what it's all about. It's not about, what are you doing it for me, pretty much.
Mhm. Well,
But
that sounds great.
the last thing I want to actually pass the show over to you the last 3 minutes. I want you to be brutally honest. When I first approached you to be a guest on my talk show, what's made you say yes? How do you feel now? And what do you recommend it to other people?
I would recommend it to other people. I think it's been a really great experience. I said yes, and well, I didn't know who you were. I actually didn't even know, that you said learning disabilities or anything like that. I didn't, I wasn't aware of any of this, and so I just saw it as a chance for exposure. When you started talking to me, the first time hearing you, and when you started talking about that, is when I saw for the first time that it was any of that going on, and it was a happy surprise. It makes it different. It makes it, um, it's nice to do something and that maybe can help raise awareness, and I think awareness needs to be raised.
No, absolutely. What's the last 2 minutes? I'm going to pass it over to you. Was there anything you want to talk about? Anything you want to promote? This is your time.
Well, I just would love for people to check out the Scare Me podcast. If you can look for Scare Me or Scare Me podcast on any of the listening platforms that are out there. I wanted to have a podcast for a long time, and forever I couldn't think of any reason to start one because I didn't have any particular thing I'd like to talk about. And at some point, somebody was telling me a ghost story that they'd heard somewhere, and I went, "Oh my gosh, this is what I love to talk about. I love these stories that spook me about people having seen a ghost or having encountered something supernatural." And so I started the Scare Me podcast, and I've had a lot of great guests on there, a few of which were celebrity guests, tell about their own experiences or stuff that they've heard about for local legends. And I love that feeling of listening to something spooky in the dark and feeling those chills. And so that's my favorite thing to talk about, and that's why I've started it. That's at scareme.albieroblesvoice.com, or more easy, just look for Scare Me Pod, all one word. That hashtag will lead you to our websites or any of the posts that I use on any social media.
No, absolutely. The last thing I want to promote, and so I do have a question for you off the air, but the last thing I want to promote is June 10th. June 10th is my 8-year anniversary episode. I would love to have you a part of it. It will be June 10th, that's a Thursday, 5 o'clock East, 2 o'clock West. If you're in Chicago or Seattle, I think that's an hour difference. That's like 4 o'clock. Don't get me started on Mountain Time. I heard a Mountain Time. I have no idea what the hell it is. But wrapping up our talk show, it was a real honor and privilege having you as a guest, and I'm looking forward to part 2 down the road. I just want to say thank you for your time.